this has been touched on in certain areas, but I don't think we ever touched on it on this show. And that is stuff with the NFL, but more so not necessarily from a sports perspective, but more so from a hypocrisy perspective. I remember distinctly years ago, or not too long ago, before the incidents with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and stuff like that happened, this was a reoccurring argument back and forth when Colin Kaepernick was doing his peaceful protest. Now, keep in mind, this was way before it was accepted on a national scale to take a knee, even though taking a knee is not as disrespectful as people think. At that particular time, some people felt that his peaceful protest was disrespectful. Others felt that it was needed. And he did that at a time where it was not socially acceptable to protest in that way. Now, fast forward to now. Now we have everybody willing to take a knee, everybody willing to speak out, and it has become more comfortable. But also, at this point, people are more frustrated over the issues. Now, the NFL has finally decided that they're going to support this initiative wholeheartedly across the board.
Like a trend.
Right, like a trend. Meanwhile, they were not supporting it when Colin Kaepernick had all these issues. So there are a lot of ways this could have went. I don't think it was genuine for them to turn around after years of banishing Colin Kaepernick, ignoring the race injustice in fear of profit gains, or in fear, I should say, of profit loss, that now, because it is trendy and you see the majority of folks outraged and standing for something, that now you want to follow suit. Those who genuinely didn't understand and now are getting the education and now want to make a change, that's different. But I'm talking about the ones that could have cared less about this because they were in fear it was going to hurt their pockets. I feel I'm not surprised, but at the same time, I still bring shame on the NFL for doing this.
Hypocrites.
Because you can't sit over here and talk about you want to do stuff for cancer patients, you want to do stuff for the armed forces, you want to do stuff for those who are battling other illnesses, you want to do something for Women's Day or something like that, you want to do something for Christmas and stuff of that nature, Thanksgiving, whatever the cause is. But when it comes to race relations, people get cold feet. And the fans, don't even get me started on the fans. Because I feel like pockets of the fan base have shown hypocrisy as well. You said that he was shaming the country way back when Colin Kaepernick did a peaceful protest. He didn't have his knee on the flag. He took a knee during the Pledge of Allegiance. And if you did your research, you would understand that how the Pledge of Allegiance was really written. It was not written in mind for people of African American descent. Those lyrics were taken out. If you think I'm lying, do the research. However, back then they make these excuses about he was disrespecting the flag. And when the Chiefs and the Texans back at, initial game one, or when the season started this year, the few fans that were in attendance due to the pandemic booed. They weren't taking a knee during the national anthem. They were taking a knee for social injustice and racial injustice, which brought to attention and confirmed what many have all been thinking, that this was never about the flag. This was about the fact that people don't want to see true unity. Now, I done said my piece. I'm going to let Jeff say his piece.
I've said it. I've said it so many times in my life. You cannot spell unity without unity. Even if we just strip everything down and we strictly talk about football, the amount of bonds, if you play football, the amount of bonds and relationships you create and the people you play with, it becomes a brotherhood. I've never played a game of football to where my African-American brother that was beside me, or whether it was my Asian brother or my Mexican brother or whoever, didn't have my back on that field. We played together, we ate together, we celebrated together, we got our asses whipped together, showed us some heated emotions, but it never got to the point to where, hey, fuck you, you white motherfucker, or fuck you, you know what I mean? It never got to that point. And that's because football brought us together. Football has a means. Sports in general have a means of doing things like that. Any sport that you play, whether it's boxing, whether you want to do jiu-jitsu, basketball, you are playing with and dealing with multiple cultures at one time. Unless you're playing one of them retarded ass solo sports like golf, no offense, but it's boring as hell. You're dealing with multiple cultures people. And I'm bringing all this up because football, the NFL in general, is one of the biggest, and I say biggest, American sport. It's not like the other sports that's, super big in all the other countries, like soccer. Soccer's big in like every country. We have an American sport, which brings, direct fan base from right here in our own country. They had a chance to get behind Kaepernick. Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like, all right, Kaepernick didn't mean any disrespect by it. I do feel like he meant disrespect by it. I do feel like he meant good by it as well. But I don't think he thought that shit through. I think he had a conversation with somebody and he was like, dude, I want to bring some light on this situation. And somebody said, hey, why don't you go kneel? I thought in that moment, he's like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. I'm a kneel. Fuck that flag. That's what I feel like he really felt. I still feel that way. But I do feel like he was definitely trying to shed some light and bring some good into this situation. He was trying to protest. He was trying to do something that wasn't disrespectful to the point of going out there throwing fucking Molotovs in the buildings and shit. He wanted to kneel so that he's not going to stand up for this country that's not standing up for him. So, like I said, I do feel like he was trying to bring good into it. But in that moment, I do feel like he fucked up and he meant it with disrespect. Which, can you blame him for feeling that way? If you're a black man being harassed by the cops, or if you're a black man who's being told, hey, fuck you, you're not a slave, you weren't a slave, your great-great-grandparents were slaves. Who the fuck wants to hear that? Nobody wants to fucking hear that. We don't give a fuck what we personally went through. We give a fuck about the history and what the history is still doing over and over and over. The redlining, the racial oppression, God damn it, what do you call it? When you see somebody of suspect, what do you call
racial profile?
Racial profile, man, I'm slipping today. When you racially profile somebody, all of that chimes into what he was trying to stand up for. And what did the NFL do? Straight up kicked him the fuck out. Oh, we don't support him and his cause. It's 2015 or whatever the hell that shit happened. And now look, you're sitting here telling me today, after all this is said and done, and now they're back in the cause like a trend, trying to get as much PR as possible. They ain't fooling nobody. He still ain't on the team. When we got fucking Fitzpatrick still playing for Miami out here, we got Mitchell Trubisky getting sat for Nick Foles. You're sitting here telling me there's not one team that would pick him up on this offseason? So you're sitting here telling me that Dwayne Haskins is still a starter. But yet he's still ain't being picked up, and he's the biggest reason for the NFL to say, oh, we were wrong. If it wasn't for him doing what he did, the NFL ain't wrong. They just jumping on the trend, just like NBA's doing. The NBA's jumping on the trend. They weren't wrong because you know why? Because they didn't stop people from doing anything. It just didn't happen. They put it out early. Hey, don't do what Kaepernick did, or that's your career. Sorry. So my point is, which there is actually a point, if the NFL is just going to hop around like that and hop on and on like a trend, how are we going to inspire other people to do it for the right reasons instead of just being like, hey, I'm cool, I'm marching. March for the right reasons. Don't march to be on a fucking trend.